to order. We have an invocation by Pastor Forte. Or? Yes. Pastor Moore was ready to jump up right here. That was very nice.
Are you on?
No, you're good. I've got
Okay.
you. We
Sorry.
need you.
All right, we can have double prayer.
That's good.
Let's pray, everybody. Father, we just thank you tonight for your blessings upon the city of Broken Arrow and all that you're doing in this great city. Tonight, we lift up our mayor, we lift up our city council, we lift up our city manager, and we lift up each and every one of our city council members. God, we ask that you would bless them in Jesus' name. Father, Proverbs 24 verse 3 says that wisdom builds the house. So we're asking, God, that you would release divine wisdom upon each and every one of them as they're making decisions to advance our city. Father, we're thankful for the plans that you have for Broken Arrow, and they are good. We thank you, Lord, for the finances that are needed and the resources that are needed to fund every project, Lord. We thank you that your hand of protection is always surrounding this city and you're always keeping us safe. Now we lift up tonight's meeting. We ask God for unity. We ask, Father, for wisdom. We ask for insight. We ask for direction. We ask for harmony. And we pray, Father, that everything that is said and every plans that are made and decisions that are made, that they bring honor and glory to your name and that they advance the city of Broken Arrow. We honor you and we praise you tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Roll call.
Ford.
Here.
Moody.
Here.
Parks. Here. Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have the following items to be pulled for discussion: A, AO, AV, AX, BB, BC, and BI. Are there any other items to be pulled?
Move to approve the consent agenda absent those items.
Second. I was going to read that. We were going to write in. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item A. So we pulled that. Is that right?
Yes, those are the minutes. I was reviewing the minutes and found an error. And item 9A of the minutes from the last meeting, it reflected an abstention when it was a no vote, and the record should reflect appropriately. So
Okay.
I would ask to approve the minutes, or I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second. Okay, we have a second. Roll call.
Ford.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Parks.
Yes.
Gillespie.
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Item 9O, or 8O, sorry about that. Approval of and authorization allowing the Tourism and Economic Development Team to implement a rideshare program for Broken Arrow with Uber. Jennifer Rush.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, City Manager. This item originally came from a trolley project. So the tourism team was looking at ways to connect our hotel visitors into the city to make sure that whenever they come visit Broken Arrow, they stay in Broken Arrow, they spend money in Broken Arrow, and enjoy all the amenities that we have to offer. So originally when studying the trolley project, it was determined that the capital cost and the operating costs were far exceeding, I think, what anybody wanted to pay. And so one of the things that we looked at investigating was Microtransit. So this is a project that Uber has done in other cities with the tourism teams. And so basically it's putting in $50,000. That's not $50,000 spent automatically. It's spent as it's utilized to see how many people utilize the trolley service, the Uber service from the hotels into New Orleans Square and the Rose District. And the reason that these areas were chosen is because they're areas that the city has put a great deal of investment in the revitalization. So basically what would be utilized is utilizing the tourism dollars that are paid from hotel sales tax. So it's dollars that our visitors are spending in order to spur economic development within these areas.
Madam Mayor, I asked this item to be pulled because when I initially looked at it, I knew that there's a committee looking at public transportation items. And while I know this deals with the tourism and dollars, I wondered if it might not be a good idea to wait and get the full report of the committee before we committed dollars to a project with regard to public transportation generally. I'm okay either way, but I kind of wanted to understand more about what this was trying to accomplish versus what the Public Transportation Committee was looking at.
Absolutely. And I can have Larry talk about what they're looking at. So basically kind of the differences, and Larry and I have joined together on our projects because he's doing more of public transportation that deals with getting our residents around the area. And this was more focused on tourism and getting those visitors to visit our areas within the city. But I can definitely have him answer some of those questions.
Yeah, as Jennifer has stated, our study that we've been doing with our committee and with the public, who has provided a great deal of information and thoughts through our survey process, is focused on our residents predominantly and ensuring that we have proper public transportation to provide to our citizens and to be good fiscal stewards of those dollars and to have that analysis. Councilor Ford has been on that committee along with many of our other individuals within the city. But we have worked in tandem as we have moved along and really have viewed the Uber project with the chamber or with the economic development group as a pilot to see how well Uber would do in this situation, because the study is expected to be wrapped up at the end of this month. And by having some of this initial information that we could see from Uber would help guide us as we move along with the process of potential microtransit for the entire city.
So it would actually help, the tourism study would actually help the
Yes.
committee in its work. Because
Yes,
I
it
know
would.
that Councilor Ford discussed that, and that was when I first saw this, I thought, well, I don't want to commit dollars unnecessarily, but if you're saying it would be helpful for that, then
Yes.
that would make more sense.
And as with the other item on the agenda is the contract with Tulsa Transit, is that there is a caveat in the agreement that if given 30 days notice, either party can discontinue the contract or expand the contract. And so by having some of this information as we move forward this next fiscal year, the information that we do gather through Uber would be helpful as we make those decisions.
Jennifer, since it's pulled, I'll ask a question. Do you have a good method of feedback now to how often do you get information, how successful, how much it was used? Is that a monthly or?
Sure.
6 months?
We actually can get it daily, that type of feedback. So right now we've worked with all the hotels to at least make sure that they're on board for this, because in order to implement, it would be implementing late summer, early fall. We would need to have them on board to help us market it, because we would, the marketing the city does is more to our residents, and we need to make sure that the hotel helps us market it to our visitors. And so what we would be able to do is we have a dashboard that we could daily look up rides. You can see what time of day they're using rides. You can see where they're going to, what hotels are utilizing it more, because you can see those drop off and pick up locations. And so it would be able to give us data. And as mentioned, we said that, we would cap it at 50,000. And so it's only paid for as it's utilized and exhausted. So if we go into it and only $10,000 is utilized within a year, we can bring it back since it's a pilot and say, is this something that council would like to continue?
And we can add, I know we discussed the fact that right now we're looking at New Orleans Square in the Rose District, but if we're going to push to have more events out at the event park, we talked about adding that as a
Yes,
route
right.
as well. So.
Good.
So just for the public's knowledge, how do people utilize it that are staying at the hotel?
So there
Or
will
adding
be a Uber has basically like a QR code, that they'll be able to scan and they'll be able to utilize it. Right now, what we're working with is we're working with hoteliers to kind of figure out that process of how that QR code is distributed to their guests, because we want to make sure they're a verified guest, not somebody who just wants to park.
Oh, sure.
At that
I
location.
actually wondered about that.
And so we want to make sure they don't want to just park there and then, travel somewhere else. And so we're making sure, putting those processes together. And then we can, like, as mentioned, we can see how many people utilize it. I think it also gives us some good data as Larry moves forward with his project as well, because if we see that it's not utilized, then spending expenditures such as a trolley or a big bus or things like that might not be where we want to spend those dollars.
Out of that, then I would make a motion to approve item A.
Counselor Ford, did you have
Yes.
anything you want? That
I'm
wanted
just
to
really excited about, actually, I'm serving on both of these committees, and I'm just excited about the outside of the box thinking that's coming out. And, what I didn't want to see is empty trolleys going around our city.
Right.
And so we don't pay for this unless it's being used. So yeah, I am pretty excited about it. And thanks for all your work, both of you and Larry both.
Yeah, and we probably shouldn't put a big sign up to just scan, maybe just when they check in at the hotel. It's their package. Yeah, that would be bad. So,
in a second. I'll second.
we have a motion and second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Item AV is next. Approval of and authorization to purchase two 2022 Mustang Mach four-wheel drive SUVs from Reynolds Ford pursuant to Oklahoma statewide contract. Larry?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, as you may remember, we received a grant from INCOG a couple of months ago from CMAQ to encourage changeover in fleet for some of our vehicles within the city. And so as such, our staff, along with our building maintenance and transportation services, along with our purchasing department, had looked at the options that are currently available for electric vehicles so that we could utilize this. And due to the familiarity with more of the Ford technology and the ability to incorporate into our fleet much more easily, staff had determined that the Mach-E would be the one that would be most beneficial to our city. And so these two vehicles would be within our department, would be utilized for our team efforts, including our farmers market and our adventures out into inspecting the world and whatnot with building code enforcement and things along those lines, and to basically build upon that. So this is an 80-20 match that we have with the CMAQ funding. So
Again, I was the culprit. I asked this to be pulled because, one, I wanted to know why, given our history with Tesla and the police car, I wanted to know why we decided to go with the Mustang, which it's not really a Mustang, because a Mustang is a pony car, and this is an SUV that they call a Mustang. I just want to be clear about that.
yeah.
On the record.
But yeah, on the
record,
record,
yes.
I did
it's,
agree
it's,
with
it's
that,
embarrassing that they put the Mustang
Yes.
name on this. But anyway,
I will agree.
but having said that, I was curious
Mhm.
as to why we didn't look at Tesla,
It's-
since we have one of those in our fleet, and what led us to the Ford product.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd forgotten about the INCOG match until I saw that. So I
Yep.
wanted the citizens to hear why we're looking at these electrical vehicles.
And this will also allow us to gauge the Tesla, gauge the Mach-E, and kind of see if we grow the fleet in the electric world, then we'll have gauges that we can go by instead of just having necessarily one brand within our fleet. We could see also how this other brand is utilized and how well it does, and cost.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item AV.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Item AX, award the lowest responsible bid to Met Concrete.
Madam Mayor, I asked this to be pulled because there was a 25% difference between the bid that was accepted and that sort of made me wonder. So I was hoping we could, I was going to ask, make a motion to table this item so it could be looked at to determine why there was so much disparity, and then report back to us in July before we voted on the matter.
Absolutely. Like you said, there's about a 25% difference. Only 2 bidders. Have no problem with tabling it and let us look into that and get you more information.
And so that would be my motion, is to table it accordingly.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Item BB, approval of and authorization to execute change order number 1 with Diversified Civil Contractors for construction contract ST 1928 West New Orleans Street and Elm Place intersection.
Mayor, Council, I'm Tim Robbins, Construction Division Manager here for the City of Broken Arrow. The change order you have in front of you is for, as noted, is for the New Orleans intersection streetscaping and improvements project. So the change order 1 is in relation to the decision on June 6th, the last council period, to review, during the review of the cool and the warm tones that were selected as a scheme, as an options within the project, to evaluate some additional color iterations. As part of this, we immediately, as preparation for this, we immediately gave the contractor a stop work on awarding or issuing any colors purchased. The plans were bid out with a warm tone. So what we didn't want to do is have an iteration of changes to have to restock materials. So on that, we issued them a delay as of May 30th to cease on purchasing of materials, and coming back this evening with the change order and the color selections that's on the general business for discussion, and then we'll release for procurement. So with that, we've impacted the timeline about 21 calendar days, and that is what this is referring to.
Well, and my only concern with that one is that at the meeting, and I pulled the minutes up because I wanted to make sure I hadn't lost my mind. Well, that's a different issue, but anyway, at the meeting, we had, I know Councilor Parks asked if this would result in a delay or slow down the process, and we were told it shouldn't at that time based on the minutes. So I'm anxious to have this completed before the shopping season for Christmas, the holiday season. And so will that allow us to at least be able to have the roadway work complete? That won't change that. That was important to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. So what this is going to do, so our contractor is committed to getting this done as fast as possible. And what we wanted to do is contractually take care of the obligations that are within his contract. But they are moving forward, as you've seen here this last week, they are pushing forward as fast as possible. We've demoed. They have just about got all the demolition done within the first phase and phase what we're calling a 1A. So as much, even more than what was anticipated. So we're finding ways to overcome this, but this is what we are, this would extend that timeline into December, unfortunately. Yes, sir. We anticipate we're finding ways to mitigate that, but they're contractually wise, we would have an impact out into Christmas.
Is there any way to, so I noticed they're working 24 hours now.
So they
Or
are.
they will be.
They won't be, they'll be working within all hours of the 24-hour period. They will still be maintaining about a 10 to 11 max hour workday. However, they're going to be shifting earlier concrete placements, mainly due to concrete demand and temperatures.
So they understand how important it is to have this opened.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. They are, we've talked with diversified civil contractors. They understand the timeliness of the nature, and the faster they get this done, the faster they can pull their crews to the outside of the lanes. So it is paramount for getting this done as fast as possible.
Okay. That's just my concern.
I think we all knew that it was gonna, it's just the nature of what we're doing.
I know, it's just
Unfortunately.
that's not what when I voted last week.
I actually thought there was a delay. I thought there was this, it would delay it a little bit because we had to push back voting on.
I just understood they could keep other pieces moving so that this wouldn't impact it. And that's what the minutes indicated was said. And that's what I remembered. So that's why I was curious as to why we were extending it if that didn't actually stop it. So you've answered the question. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'd have to watch the video to see what I actually said. I
I'm
thought,
just reading the minutes. That's all.
well, and I do apologize if I misspoke or anything. Critical, they're still working. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do. Ordering the color concrete and the additives that they're using. Color scheme is a critical path item. May I ask, can we hold off on the change order if the contractor's still moving and revisit? I mean, I think we could potentially do that because he's moving at a very fast pace.
I just want to do my best to keep him under the gun.
I understand.
That's, that's a really good point, because it's like, if we do the change order, is it just like, okay, they just gave us more time that they'll fill up, like
They have followed the process. They have submitted it at the right time. I would be fine with holding it and watching the progress, but ultimately, I think they're obligated some time.
So what?
Well, I guess if they
Are we
understand,
tabling it
if they understand that, because I don't, understanding the contract negotiations and all that, I know, I don't want to upset the apple cart even further. I just want the contractor to understand how valuable it is to have this done.
The fact that he's actually moved into phase 2 and started some of the demolition demonstrates that he understands our time constraints and actually is thinking somewhat outside of the box of how he can kind of make up some time on his own. So that's an impressive feat on what he's doing.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting, I thought it was going to be like one corner at a time. And then when you drive it and it's three corners there's demolition going on.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, if there was a spot, our action plan was if there was a spot where we can move into that was not going to be affected by the next phase of traffic, that's what we ended up into. The contractor proposed that, and as a method to further along the process to get as much done as possible in a single transition. That's what we transitioned to.
Well, and I would add, I drive through that every day, and twice at least. And what I would tell you is that initial week of traffic is flowing beautifully. I mean, there really is. The drivers have, I guess, if you give enough tickets for illegal left turns, they take it seriously. But people are flowing through. The traffic is going smoothly, and so the contractor and or the people who have planned that out have done a fine job.
Yeah.
And thank you to our police department for helping remind them in a positive way, of course. So
Big kudos.
it has gone smooth, but I'm willing to approve this. I just wanted to have a discussion so that both the public and the contractor understood how important this development is.
Absolutely.
So I'll move accordingly. Thank you, Scott.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Item BC, approval of PT 21-107, conditional final plat, the trails at Aspen Creek. Larry Curtis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Larry Curtis, Community Development Director. PT 21-107 is a conditional final plat for the trails at Aspen Creek, provides a one lot containing 26.32 acres. The property, which is located 1/4 mile west of Aspen Avenue and north of Tucson Street, is presently zoned A1. On June 20th, 2021, City Council approved PUD 307A, a major amendment to PUD 307 on 106.78 acres, subject to the property being platted. This portion, that major amendment that we did last year, moved the initial location of the multifamily portion of the property from the center of it to the eastern side of the property. Giving some history of it, back in 2014, this original PUD was proposed and approved by City Council, subject to the property being platted. Due to the lapse of that PUD, the applicant came back forward and applied for the exact same PUD in 2020 and council approved that PUD at that time. Again, in July of 2021, Planning Commission reviewed a major amendment for the location of this PUD movement, and then, in June of 2021, Planning Commission did, and then City Council approved it on July 20th of 2021. This particular item, this plat, was heard by the Technical Advisory Committee on May 3rd, 2022. It was recommended by approval by a vote of 4-0 by the Planning Commission in their meeting on May 26, 2022, per staff recommendation and TAC recommendations. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm the one that asked all the questions and pulled this item, and mainly, and actually, I think the reason I didn't know, I don't think I was at that meeting. I think I was on vacation. And that I was like, why do I not remember this? But now when you said that date, I was like, I think I was gone. So that might be why. But anyway, regardless, mainly, I mean, I think you saw from the questions some of what I was most concerned about was, and I know it's gone through the PUD process already, it looks like, and but I just kind of wanted to reiterate the fencing. So I understand it's going to be wood on the west side, and
The PUD allows for wood to be on the west side, so opaque wood, typically a wooden fence, would be located on the west side of the property. And right now, the PUD calls for that to be commercial, which is very atypical for us to have, is that type of material abutting a commercial area.
so is there anything at this point, since it's part of the PUD, that we can do to change it or ask them nicely?
We can always ask nicely.
Well, and my thought is, I mean, it is going to be, I mean, when they bring in that commercial development and then there's a wood fence, which is weird to me.
Well,
And also the emergency exit, that's a whole other thing.
well, because we don't know what's, at this time, nothing has come forward to us in regards to a plat, any specifics on a future development of that portion of the property. So we do not have, really good information on what that could be. But typically, when commercial goes next to residential, is that they put up an 8-foot opaque wooden fence as associated with that. So that way it separates the uses in between the two. And because we don't know the layout of what that future development will be, it's kind of hard to mitigate any type of design standards to the west. So
Yeah. My thought was, we are creating these village type areas throughout our city. I mean, that's kind of that feel that we're we're looking at. And this kind of goes away from that, because if you're not encouraging traffic flow from the multifamily into the commercial area where it could be, whatever, I mean, shopping, grocery, whatever it is, it just seems weird, and that it's only an emergency exit, entrance and exit.
typically multifamily tends to be a gated community. So if you look at even on our more village oriented, so let's say the project that is up at Bicentennial Middle School, that is nice single family style. It's still a gated area. Now they do have, just because the exit road-wise may be an emergency exit, doesn't mean there won't be connectivity through sidewalks or other means that may develop out of that. So we'll kind of see as that western, but and as this forward, I'm sure that they will try to see how things kind of move together.
Okay. I mean, that in my head, that makes the most sense, is they would want to go. I mean, that would that would be a really good atmosphere for the people that live there to be able to go back and forth just directly. But then secondly, the masonry, how it's like the 65%, I'm just off the top of my head, the 65% that's on, the streets that people can see, but yet this will be an area that there is a PUD that it's going to be commercial, or it's set up to be commercial to the west. So obviously, the general public won't see it, but I mean, potentially the general public will see it because of it being a commercial area. So they didn't we didn't require them to do more masonry on that side based on that?
Correct, because typically in our zoning code, our current zoning code that we have in place, is that we require we kind of, on the side that's facing the street, we typically require a 75%. And so what we worked out here was that we dropped down to 65, but they still had some percentage requirements along the western side and eastern side and northern side, where typically a masonry requirement is not required. So they increased the requirements and dropped a little bit of the requirements. So still, it's a net positive over than what our current standards are for our zoning code.
Okay. I mean, I knew that we couldn't really change anything at this point because of where we are. What are we actually voting on tonight?
This is just the plat.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the specifics of the layout and things along those lines, staff still has not seen yet. This is just the plat for the property. As we move forward, there will be a site plan that will be submitted along with construction design standards for the actual buildings themselves.
Okay. Well, hopefully the people building it will see this and maybe think, we want to make our development look better to the general public because I mean, it's the same developer, correct? That's doing both. I mean,
No.
Originally, was it
No.
one person owned both of those pieces of land?
The original developer or the owner of the property is not the current owner now.
Okay.
This owner is Case and Associates.
Right.
And so they were not the original owner or developer of the original PUD.
Okay. I just remember when they came when I first saw them, they talked about both areas of the PUD. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. All right, moving on to item 7, public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions.
Madam Mayor, I think there was one.
Oh, I had marked it because it was the next one. Sorry about that. Acceptance of a utility easement consisting of 0.2730 acres from Forest Ridge Board Homeowners Association and Oklahoma Corporation on property generally located at 7500 Block South 257th East Avenue. And it's in regards to the villas on the Greens lift station.
Me on this item. There is a year-old tree that is recognized by the state as I forget the term. Centennial witness tree, yes, because it's older than the state and it's been here for a length of time. It's within about 160 feet of the lift station, and the easement comes within, I believe, about 24 feet.
25 to 30
Yes.
feet, yes, sir.
I would ask that us time to examine the impact any work around the building or work around the tree would have on this natural historical structure. I don't want to be responsible for killing a 140-year-old tree that may have seen Coronado come through or something like that. In all validity, I think it is something I would ask that we table to give it some additional consideration. I believe the resident did come to speak if she would like, but I'm going to ask it to be tabled.
Well, I mean,
Does Kenny have an answer?
Exhibits, but Kenny's aware of it too.
I am, yes. I think the easiest thing to do is exactly what council's looking at, is tabling the issue. So it's actually, the project is converting a lift station into a gravity sewer, which benefits the community. But the easiest thing to do is table it. We'll go out, survey it, and show where the easement actually is. And if it's a problem, we have time to move the easement. The way we do this is it's out to bid right now, but we'll just put out an addendum that postpones the bid opening indefinitely. And once we resolve this, then we'll schedule a bid opening date. So easy to do.
And
Ms.
that
Colston,
would be
you,
my motion.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to verify you, Ms. Colston, you don't want to speak on this now that we're tabling it?
I was just gonna give you a little history. show you
History,
some
okay.
pictures, But since it's being tabled, I don't see the need for that.
Okay.
Well, make sure that we do get it.
She gave me
She
the
did,
pictures.
yeah.
I have them right there next to my kids now.
I would make a motion consistent with Assistant Manager Schwab's recommendation to table the matter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Duty,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. All right. Now, item 7. Public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, and awards. 7A is presentation, consideration, and acceptance of the City of Broken Arrow annual financial statements and single audit for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. Cindy Arnold.
Good evening. It's actually supposed to be 2021. I apologize. I found out tonight that Arledge was not able to come. I found out at the beginning of the meeting, but they will be here July 19th to give a full presentation of the 21 audit. They did render opinion over the weekend. It was a clean opinion. We had one finding, and that was because we didn't file in time with the Auditor General. We're a few months late. And the reason is on that is we converted, this is our first year with Munis. It was very difficult. So we had all new account numbers. Arledge had to use all new account numbers. And hopefully this coming for FY22 will be quicker. So, but we need council to accept the Broken Arrow annual financial statements. The full draft in the binder will be, I should have tomorrow or the next day. We have to FedEx it. So.
So, and us being a couple of months behind, is that on us or was it on the?
It was a combination. I mean, with the conversion of Munis, this was our first full year, and we were not quite sure what reports we had to use and what we're trying to get things out of the system. It's a learning curve.
Okay.
And I talked to LaDonna the other day. I says, it really bothers me that we're late. And she says, you're not the only one. When they switch over to Munis, there's a couple of municipalities that are a couple of years behind.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a whole new accounting system, but now we're more familiar with it.
Right.
And, you know, we had some issues too with the training because of COVID. We didn't have trainers on site. So we were trying to do everything by teams, which makes it a little more difficult. So I apologize for being late, but it is done.
You can't just use QuickBooks.
She's like,
No.
that's cute. I think
Our
that's
fixed
the
assets
Disney
wouldn't even
laugh.
fit in. So the recommendation is accept the City of Broken Arrow's annual financial statements for the fiscal year 2021.
So we would just be accepting the financial statements and the auditor would be,
They'll do a presentation. They'll basically tell you exactly what I told you. And you will have the full audit. They're binding it, getting it ready. So I figured it's going to go out either tomorrow or Wednesday. They're going to FedEx it to me, and then I will get it to you.
because the recommendation was to accept the financial statements and auditor's report, but
What she said was,
you just want us to do the financial.
Correct.
statements. I just want to make sure that
Yes.
the record reflects correctly.
We need to have the audit
So-
in order to do the bond sale. It makes, we need to have the audit.
I'll make a motion to accept the annual financial statements for the fiscal year 2020. Is it 2020?
21, 20,
Yeah,
yes,
21,
FY21.
22, or 2020, 21,
FY21.
FY 21. Okay.
I'll second.
And also on July 19th, she will also do the single audit, which is basically our grants.
We have a motion, and Scott, did you second that?
I did.
Roll call?
Oh, I see. Agenda items. It's different.
We're ready. Here we go. I was waiting for my name to be called.
Motion passes.
We get to actually hit a button.
Moving on to item
Thank you.
8. Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
I think we had someone for 8. No, I guess we did not. Item 8 is citizens' opportunity address. There is no one signed up under that. Item 9A, under general council business, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute resolution number 1467, providing a change in the boundaries of the city council wards. Farhan or Larry? Okay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, this is the change of the wards for the city council. Farhad and his team have been instrumental on ensuring that we had excellent boundaries redrawn, working with INCOG to ensure we have as much of a balance as possible, but also to ensure that we have the growth patterns as we move forward with the city. And so the resolution is before you to move forward with those boundaries.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Anybody?
Yeah,
I'll make a
I'll make
motion that we approve the boundaries as submitted to us.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. That's not coming up, right?
Little glitch in the system. Just 1 second. I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Counselor Ford.
Oh, yeah. All right. Roll. Item 9B, consideration to Steve Edgar as presiding municipal judge and Dennis Lee as an alternate municipal judge for the City of Broken Arrow Municipal Court for a 2-year term, and consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the rate of pay for each judge, including a possible 3% adjustment to base rates of pay and authorization to execute an employment contract with each judge. Trevor Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. As members, on June 9th, the Judicial Nominating Commission recommended that we reappoint Judge Edgar and Judge Sagely for another 2-year term. That's what our recommendation is as well. What is before you is an alternate of either considering to keep their rate at the current rate or to increase it by a 3% cost of living adjustment. We would note the judges have not had a cost of living adjustment since 2018. So the recommendation is that they be reappointed with 3% cost of living increase and that council executes the employment contract. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll make a motion, we approve the request with a 3% adjustment approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion approved. Item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 1464. A resolution of the Broken City Council adopting fiscal year 22-23 annual budget for the city.
Good evening. The proposed fiscal year 2023 budget was presented to the City Council at a special meeting on May 24th. And then we did a public hearing on June the 6th. The total net changes out of the $311 million that was proposed was $392,430. So the total budget for this year is $310,980,873. Resolution 1464 adopts. Staff is recommending approval of Resolution 1464 and authorizes execution. Does anybody have any questions? I know we spent a lot of time on it on the 6th and then on the 24th.
Any questions? Cindy?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A second. Roll call. Motion approved. 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of Resolution 1465, a resolution fixing the amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2022, to mature each year. Fixing the time and place the bonds are to be sold. Cindy?
This is earlier this year because of the interest rate. We were concerned that the interest rate would be too high. And then as you know, we had talked about being $43 million, but because of the interest, we lowered it to at $40 million in order to stay with our target millage. This is a list of the projects. Proposition 1 is $33,650,000. Those are the traffic. Proposition 2 is acquisition for a fire truck, $750,000. Proposition 3 is $890,000 with public buildings. Proposition 3 is quality of life. Proposition 4 is $2.1 million, and then Proposition 5 is the drainage is 2.6. So a total of $40 million. This is our 7th series from the 2018 bond election. John Wolf is here if there's any questions. But Resolution 1465 authorized to set the sale of for the bonds.
So it's going to be for $40 million.
Correct.
Right?
And we're hoping to have the funds by September. And just keep your fingers crossed that the interest rate stays. It varies. I mean,
No.
but as we know, $40 million is, we felt safe, better than 43.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1465.
If I can, Mayor, just real quick. Just because we talked a little bit about it at the last council meeting, I appreciate that motion. Just want to reiterate what I shared with the governing body members. The original sale that we had planned in the package put us at around 32 million or $33 million for this year. And because of the increase in assessed value is the reason why I was able to present to you $43 million, which is incredible to be able to actually have that large of a sale. And it's been consistent with all of the sales so far that we've had a higher assessed value because we actually, working with the municipal financial services, we kept the projected or the anticipated assessment very conservative in terms of what we would be able to sell. So $40 million is still 7 to 8 million, over what we had originally, which is really good. There were several projects that we had to reduce some funding in order to get the 43 million. I did the Innovation District had, I think we'd sold all the remaining, and that was like $1.5 million that I took out of there, knowing that we're still in the planning stages, that we still have a healthy amount that we actually, to make sure we have it consulted and we could get some improvements. Plus we have some ARPA funds that we're going to be using towards that. So I think we're in real good shape right there. And I did remove $600,000 from the street maintenance in order to get there because the balance of that money was for major projects. And it's just one of those where I wasn't going to affect any of the major road widening, specifically the ones that we're doing east and west that are in the package. So I just want to make sure that council was aware of that.
So we can move as expeditiously as possible so we can lock in the best.
Well,
rate.
there's regulations. Yeah, we have to go.
Yeah, I
So
know.
yeah, we are, John, the timeline, they're going to sell and then we'll open the bids in about 30 days. And then we'll close 30 days or so after that. So we're hoping by, 1st of September to have the funds. Because, we usually do it in December, but a couple months ago, we were concerned about the interest rates. And you saw.
I think the Fed will raise it again before the end of the year. So
we still have some room where the interest rates were when I sent out the POS to you the other day versus what we have projected for our sale. So we still have a little bit of wiggle room, but that's why we wanted to bring it from 43 to 40.
I agree. I just want to move as quickly.
We've been watching it daily almost.
So if we vote this tonight, then when will it go? When will it be sold then? The date?
July 19th. Yeah. We'll take it on July 19th and we'll go for sale and then it'll be 30 days.
Okay.
All right.
I second the motion.
You did.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second roll call.
I'm ready to go home. Thanks for doing that.
We got a while.
We got a bit. Item 9E, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution 1466.
I apologize on the RFA. It was done before we reduced it because we reduced at the last minute. This is a reimbursement resolution in order to, if I remember correctly, it's like 2 years out to get fire apparatus. So we are going to go ahead and order them, and we're going to use fund balance of the fire sales tax. And then once we sell these bonds, we'll reimburse $750. And this also includes for next year's sale, which we have $750. So we'll reimburse the fire and sales tax funds. But we want to get these trucks ordered so that we can be in line.
Very concerned about the supply and being able to get those. And so we're forward funding the purchase of both of those apparatus to get them now to get into the queue to be able to purchase them.
And if we pay for them, we get a discount because they don't have to take a loan out to build them because they can't carry. I mean, just us alone is $1.5 million. That's a lot for a company to carry. Sure. So we're going to fund them and we get a discount for doing that. So staff is recommending approval of resolution 1466 and authorize its execution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1466.
Second.
We have a motion and a second roll call. Motion passes. 9F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to publish a notice of availability of annual audit for fiscal 2020-21.
The state statutes require a publication and notice of availability. It will be in City Hall on the front desk, and it will also be on our website. So staff has recommended approve the notice of availability of the annual audit for fiscal year 21 and authorize its publication.
And as a note, we've looked at it several times.
Yes,
We had a very good year, FY21.
yes, we did. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the notice of availability of the annual audit.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 9G, consideration, discussion, and possible direction regarding the color scheme selection and possible approval and authorization for city manager to execute change order number 2 with diversified civil contractors. Robbins.
Good evening again. Tim Robbins, Construction Division Manager, City of Broken Arrow. So, as you heard, this is for the color selection for the New Orleans Square intersection. As noted, so on June 6th council meeting, it was the request of council to reevaluate the proposed color scheme for the intersection to include a element that was better representative of the logoing for the New Orleans Square logos. So in order to do that, our engineering and construction team, as well as the contractor and our engineer of record, Kim Lee Horn, decided to pull together their efforts and take at this jointly. So I have a series of handouts for you, as well as what is on the screen. Grab these and hand these out. I love handouts, so you can see these in person.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Got my walkabout done. All right. So what you have here, we have pulled together a number of selections. The first 2 color schemes are based on the concept of trying to build this blue mimicking of the logoing. We're trying to build this blue logo for the New Orleans Square. And the blue is going to be surrounded by a differing color of concrete that is the square of the intersection. So in the original concept, this was following a warm or cool tone with multiple colors. So to bring out the inverse of the New Orleans Square logo, the white surround helps to pop that blue. Along with this, the white of the concrete, this white concrete is a integral concrete, so meaning we are coloring from top to bottom of this concrete. That concrete will also match the sidewalks. So as part of this intersection design, the sidewalks will have to contrast for an ADA walkability. It's a government regulation to have a contrast for a visual contrast to the walk. And with that white sidewalk, it'll be a broomed finish that will match quite nicely to that white border around the blue star. The blue is on top of a white concrete with a broadcast hardener with a extra layer of seal on top of that to help with wearability, longevity, and brightness. This was done in an effort to control costs, as blue concrete is one of the most challenging concretes to make. So this gives us a really good, long-lasting product that can be modulated in the future. So re-tinted and recolored, brought back to vibrancy later on. The concept here would have a not to exceed additional cost of around $230,000. So let me explain to that. So with these concepts, the valuations with the contractor, we've worked diligently with our contractor and our engineering staff to come up with not to exceeds, as we have not gone down to the line item valuations, as we are still working through some of those costs. So the second color scheme So we'll go to that next page. So this would be incorporating that same concept. And to build the border around that as complementing to the sidewalks in order to mitigate some of the costs, we went with a more standard color, which is the warm tones. It does not have to be this beige, but it would be a earth tone that is more in line with what was already in the original contract. So that takes out an element of additional costs where we were able to bring that down into a nice middle zone. The thing to keep in mind with these two color schemes is the square around the star. What this will do is add in a fifth phase of construction in it that would be done at a later time. Likely our aim would be during the spring break. So in the center, a sacrificial concrete would be placed about 6 inches thick so that we can actually fast track the construction inside, because we're not doing that detailed star at that time. So we would be fast tracking going with sacrificial concrete. That would come out at a later time, the fifth phase. So we would adjust the traffic control around, pushing everything around, come in, demo that, and place these to give a consistency in the color with the blue. That's the biggest highlight of this, is to control consistency and to place the white around it and make everything look very vibrant at the time of completion. And that would be at the time of completion of just about the entire project, with all the hardscaping around, the streetscaping and everything. So those are the two main concepts. Again, we can modulate the beige, as you see in the secondary concept, with earth tones to complement how we need. Those would be a standard style of tone. Color scheme 3 was another concept that we came up to with eliminating that phase 5, the need for the phase 5. So what we would do is do a quadrant method similar to what we constructed, and we would build a quarter of the blue star at a time. The concrete would still be white. We would go with a blue hardener with a tinted seal. But at the end of it, after we've gone from phase to phase to phase, to kind of complement to what Mr. Schwab highlighted in the last meeting of different colors and different phases, they would have to come back in, power wash it, and do another tinted sealer at the end. So it is an additional protection and an additional bringing out that vibrancy at the end to control the variations in the color. We do feel confident that with a broadcast hardener, we can control the color throughout there, but it is a little bit more the riskier. That's why we would go with the secondary sealant. This would be going with the original warm or cool color tone that was already bid into the contract. So the only thing really here that would be changing is going away from the original design of the multicolored bordered earth tone or cool tone concept, and going with a white full depth concrete with a blue cast hardener. So basically with the cast hardener, as like Kenny was saying, is a powdered dust that we rub into the concrete at the top, and then we seal it with a specific specialty tinted sealer on top.
Which will last longer with less maintenance.
In what regard, sir?
Well, I like the looks of having the square, the inset with the surround, the border.
The border, yes, sir.
But I'm trying to figure out, in relating the cost.
Absolutely.
What, if we went, which one between 1, 2, and, 1 and 2 appear to be the same with different sidewalk treatment.
Yes, sir.
And the sidewalk treatment is what defines the cost. Number 3 appears to be what was on the table before. I'm not really sorry either one, but appears to be what was on the table before, with the blue added in.
Yes, sir.
Without the frame. So you were explaining the different, which one will last longer and require the least amount of maintenance.
Absolutely.
Regular maintenance going forward. Because it's different treatments.
Yes, sir.
I understand. So
Absolutely.
which treatment will last the longest?
So the treatments that would be going down are very similar. It would just be going down in different phases. So the benefits to the color scheme 1 and 2 is that the contractor would be coming in and casting it all in one time. So the entire blue star would be cast in one placement, likely early in the morning and sealed that afternoon. in phases in the schemes 3, the star would be made in a quadrant method. So there's 4 different placements. So with that, there are joints that could have a potential to pop. We would be mitigating some of that, but there are construction joints in there. Now, construction practices, they have a very strict tendency for installations that try to mitigate those, but there are higher risks with that option. The main cost mitigation there that we were able to come into is eliminating that 5th phase. The 5th phase, and when we talk about that, that is around $50,000 to $60,000 of additional traffic control, remobilization, plus the additional concrete costs.
One other question. I'm sorry, just because I've been studying this all day. The 5th piece. So if that happens in spring break, so you put basically a filler concrete in the middle, which would allow people to drive across it until that piece is completed and then inserted. So you could have everything completed in the timeline we discussed, put in the filler piece. You called it
sacrificial concrete, yes.
Which I get that. That sometimes feels like that here. But the sacrificial concrete and the drivers could use it until we complete the piece that then inserts in.
That is correct.
Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir. So with it,
But that's what costs the extra cost, because they have to come back again.
That is correct.
So why do we have to wait till later to do that piece?
Yes, ma'am. So the concept would be is to try not to impact the schools. So with this, the 5th phase would be rather aggressive. And by rather aggressive, we would likely have to shift down to a reduced east-west transversing path. So we would likely have to shut down a lane or do night times, or we have not really broke into that phasing, but it would be some concept to that, to where it would be a 10 to 14 day, likely around 10, significant impact to the intersection.
And if we did it during the construction, that would be falling right during the shopping season as well.
Yes, sir.
And
That would right into Christmas time. The sacrificial phase, while I cannot guarantee it would fast track construction, we are reducing out the complexity of the center with going into the sacrificial, and each phase would be around 4 to 5 days to maybe even a week of just working on that star, is what we were initially estimating. So it will reduce it, give us a chance to get that intersection open before. There is no guarantees with construction timelines. However, it does boast to a increased constructability. And then coming back into the time frame of spring break would help us mitigate the impacts to the schools, the drop off, the pickup traffic, the school buses, and as well as give us an opportunity to finish all the other hardscaping and really turn over a beautiful project.
Well, it would limit the impact on the businesses as well.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what has concerned me as much about anything is making sure we can have access during their busiest times.
Well, what concerns me too is that, did you say that scheme 1 and 2, the durability would possibly be longer than the other one as far as the lack of so many seams and everything?
So, yes, sir. So with that, with the 4 phasings, we would be making construction joints, but that was already part of the original plan as well. So the construction techniques would still be the same as what we had before. We already had a 4-phase. The biggest complexity is with the blue. With maintaining a very consistent blue in color, getting the broadcast evenly, using it all at one time, it is the most advantageous to do it at one time. However, I would not feel comfortable in presenting this option, this option number 3, if I didn't feel like it was achievable. We do feel like it is achievable. The controllability with our contractor is there. He helped us to, Diversified Civil Contractors, the owner, worked with us hand in hand to develop it. The white banding is what creates that additional cost right up on top of it to highlight that.
Is there any concern about tire marks and all of that, like instantly?
Because I look out here in the Rose District where they've got stamped concrete, and it's got in the intersections.
Yes.
Right. And you've got people driving over that and hitting it because they're driving too fast. They're going over the raised, and there's chunks ripped out of it.
Yes,
That is going to have to at some point be repaired.
that's correct.
I'm disinclined to do something here that would result in the same problem.
Absolutely.
So the mayor's point is taken. That's been something I've been worried about.
Absolutely.
Is durability for this. And we do something that's this lovely, and then you have, I understand there's certain things you're going to have no matter what, but how long will this last?
It seems like in the Rose District it's like a stamped.
It is. So in the
that's-
Rose District, it is a integral concrete. There is also separate areas that is just a broadcast. So it is a mixture throughout. It is an intersection. It will get a lot of wear and tear. We will help to implement internal practices through this process. We've even thought about the durability and the cracks that will ultimately come. So what we'll in building construction is very common to do what's called attic stock. As we will, when we're handing over a building to Ryan and his team, we'll hand over a whole chunk full of ceiling tile or roofing. In this case, for Rocky's team, we will hand over a attic stock of the blue. We'll purchase extra blue powder, and we'll purchase extra blue tint. That way, if there is ever a repair that has to happen, we can follow a similar process. Even if we sub it out to a separate contractor, the product will still be there for it. The longevity of the blues, we have worked with our contractor. There's several sites that they sent us some blue broadcast hardened products that we've reviewed and watched for the weatherability. It's hard to say. We were not able to find a blue in an intersection. Again, blue is one of the most hard to come by products. So we've done a lot of due diligence in trying to find those. We did find one that is a pedestrian monument, and it's weathered quite well over the last 12 to 14 years. We can share those images if
So
needed.
what I hear you saying is this will be a unique and a unique intersection that nobody else has.
What I can tell you is it has been increasingly difficult to get a hold of the blue. It is a very excessively difficult.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that it's an intersection that other people will not have, and that's kind of what we're going for, isn't it? I mean, and I think are there people that want to speak. I want to hear them too. If there's somebody, there are. Okay. I will say what my personal opinion is, and this is hard for me because I always want to look at all the money, and I also want to take into consideration the hours, who knows how many hundreds of hours that have been spent by not just the city council, but also our citizens on committees. And this has been a process for a long time in the making. And I feel that the number one, the first with the white, this color scheme 1 is by far the best option because it's what we were going for. I mean, I think it exhibits what our branding is all about. It has really good contrast for not just for pretty and for drones going over New Orleans Square, but also for ADA compliance. I mean, it's because I was actually talking a friend of mine who's blind that everyone knows I have a friend that I take around to things, and just thinking about things like that. I mean, the contrast is really good. And also the fact that there aren't any joints. And I feel like that makes the most sense, but I'm not an engineer, but from what you just said, it makes the most sense. I do know that this is difficult, but it stands out and it's spectacular. And that is what we were looking for when we started this whole process. And the price difference, while on paper it looks, to me, it's a lot of money, but in the scheme of things of, concrete and, last 25 years. And I know there's be accidents and stuff that happens, but the longevity of concrete, and I asked these questions earlier, is much longer than our asphalt roads.
I feel like this is what we wanted when we were rebranding and revitalizing this intersection. And we did just approved, I did add it up, we approved just on our consent agenda alone tonight, $6.5 million. So the this amount isn't in the scheme of things there. I think we can look at that too. And this is a permanent fixture at a very important intersection in our history in Broken Arrow.
And I would be remiss to say, as one of the additional options, the original concepts, we have verified with the contractor and everybody, the original bid schemes, the equivalent costs for the warm and the cool tones are there with zero cost change orders. I do apologize, I didn't mention that earlier, but it is as an option as well. The timelines to take into consideration here is, again, when we talked about the extension of the time into the spring break timeline, it would add a little bit to the end. However, the bulk of the project would be complete. While in an ultimate change order, you would see a time extension increase, it is important to note that that time extension increase for the interior of the roadways, getting everything back to it, would be for the back end of the contract. So originally we have a completion in March to early April. It would just shift that out a little bit, even though we're still working in that time period. So
I just want the intersection to be open for Christmas, honestly, for that season.
If I may add, using either concept 1 or 2, which had the square, that's a 40 by 40 square. And as Tim mentioned, sacrificial concrete, it's actually quicker for them to get the intersection back to that point, which I think is to your point. It's easier construction because if you just take a look at the star, no matter which concept you look at, think of how they have to form that star. They had to put the lumber down to form it. So they could easily do a quarter of the square in our quadrant method, sacrificial move, and then we do the actual center medallion, as I've been calling it, over spring break or something. So we have the intersection talking to the contractor basically at the time frame that we've been talking. If you did a square.
Well, and I mean, I think that brings us basically to 1 or 2, and then trying to figure out whether the white versus the beige is worth the extra cost in the grant. I mean, you know, that to me, that's where I'm at. Is I think 1 or 2, based on being able to get the road work done based on that. If we're going to go with the blue, which is perfectly fine to me.
You've essentially summed it up.
That's the question: is do we do beige or white? I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's the question.
And it is important to note the white, while the beige, the earth tones would be a additive to the concrete to get us into those consistencies. The white is what the contractor's proposing is a white Portland cement. So it's not even a gray cement like you would normally see in a standard mix. They have worked out a location where they can get white Portland cement. I've never seen white Portland cement. So it's kind of an exciting concept, but that would be throughout the entire thing. So when maintenance comes through, that would be something that's underneath the chipping, et cetera. As well as with the earth tone. The earth tone would be colored throughout, just very much like our Rose District. And it would be a broom finish where it's a very, very replaceable product in both regards. The white is locally available, it has special order, but it can be done.
That would be my other thing, is having something that we do now and 5 years from now, we have to drill in for some reason, because inevitably it happens. And then having something unattractive or not match.
Absolutely.
Because if we're going to invest an extra $250,000 into this, I'd like to see it stay looking nice for a long time.
And I think the key to that's for a long time.
Uh-huh.
I still
Long
go
time.
back, you know,
Long
I
time.
like all of it. It reminds me of New Orleans,
Yeah.
and I can live with any of them, any of these. It's just the longevity, you know, before Rocky and his guys have to get in there, he needs to get more of the outside areas, the subdivisions done first.
Mhm.
So it needs to be several years before he gets in there.
Yes.
Well, and I'm sure we'll immediately hear about the tire marks on the white concrete. So,
Well, but really the beige, it'll be about
oh,
the
either
same.
one, yeah,
it'll be about
it'll
the
be
same.
gray before you know it. So,
I'm
You
honestly,
think
my
it'll be
struggle
gray before you know it?
is
Well, the
the
tire marks,
white
they'll be
worth
black.
the extra $105,000. That's my biggest, is that enough of a pop to make it worth an extra $100,000? I don't know. That's been
It
my
is pretty,
struggle
though.
since I saw this, because I was easily swayed on the putting in, especially with the way we could conceivably open up the intersection sooner for traffic for the holidays. I like that. And clearly 1 and 2 both look better than in my opinion, than 3. I'm just trying to decide whether it's worth an extra $100,000.
And the finished properties are going to be about the same with the two colors. We did shift away from an exposed aggregate to offset some of those costs with the whites to try and bring that down. We will also it's important to note that we noted these as a not to exceed. So we will still be very diligent stewards of the people's money, regardless of the option, including the base model of working the contractor, making sure that what we paid for in the base bid is what we get credit back for. No 50 cent on the dollar valuations. It is what we expected is what we're going to get as a compensation back to credit towards whatever scheme is selected.
If there aren't any questions right now, I'll go ahead and have the citizens speak. Thanks, Tim.
I'll leave that there.
Chase Elkins.
Good evening, Chase Elkins. It's good to be here. I commend you all for taking the time to look at this. I had the opportunity to sit on the original Elm and New Orleans committee back in 2019 and 2020, and we looked really hard at branding and what this area could be. In my opinion, we can close the book on the original warm and cool tones. I'm all for the white and the gray. And as we're talking tonight, we're talking about something unique to Broken Arrow, unique to this area. And I know it's going to be challenging. I have a lot of faith in our administration to make this work because of what I know of their work. And I also think about the northwest quadrant, the shopping center. They recently painted it white and they've got the gray. This is going to look great. With what they've got there as well. You're going to have tire marks with white. You're going to have tire marks with beige. I think the number one concern we're going to hear from the community is the longevity, because we did have the temporary tactical urbanism with the paint. And I understand that was a temporary project, but there was a lot of comments about how the paint faded quickly. And this is a different type of application. We're going to have to get that message out there. But if this fades, if the blue fades after a year, we're going to hear about that too. So I'm all for, 4 or 5 times the sealant application if needed, because I want to see this blue. I think it's going to look great. Thank you.
Thanks, Chase. Mindy Payne.
Shorter than Chase. Thank you guys so much. I know this is a big decision, but from being on the first committee and the second committee, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I love the blue and the white. It pops. It says, hey, come see what we have. Hey, drive through this area. You want to shop here, you want to drive here, you want to build your business here. This says it all. The blue and the white pops. There's nothing else like it. I have total faith that Kenny can make this amazing. And it's going to be great. So the warm tone, it looks like baby poop. So make it's like the white just, it pops. So that's just my opinion. And thank you guys.
Thank you, Mindy. Lori Lewis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Council, thank you for all the work you've done in this area, the dedication, the time that has been spent, and most importantly, the budget allocations that have been made for New Orleans Square. As someone who remembers this area from date nights in high school to dinners out in this area as a newlywed, it is a piece of my heart you're revitalizing. You're also revitalizing the businesses and our community in this area. As a member of the advisory committee, the updates are vitally important to our businesses and our community. With regard to the intersection schemes, I took time today to review all the color schemes, and I'm in favor of additional color scheme 1. I lean towards the blue and the white. The reason I do this is a logo was selected and a marketing plan has been developed, and I believe that that color scheme will work best with what has already been decided and budget has been allocated for. With the above being said, as a committee, we are thrilled to see the improvements moving forward. I realize that picking this color scheme may take a little extra time, but I think it's important that we get it done right the first time. As we drive through that intersection, we're already spending a little bit more time there. So I just say, next time you drive through, close your eyes. Sorry, Chief Berryhill. And just imagine of what that will be with the blue and the white. And remember, that area has over 70 businesses that we are concerned about. So turn to the right and support one of those businesses. Those business owners are our family. They are our friends. They employ people. They bring sales tax dollars to our community. And most importantly, we're here for them. So thank you.
And thank you for the reminder to turn to the right.
Yes. Just don't close your eyes if you're behind or in front of me. Generally between 7 and 5 of an evening.
Thank you, Lori. Curtis, can we go ahead? Can I just read this one?
Yes.
We had an email on this item that came through from Matthew Griffiths. He stated, I would like for the city council to know that a large investment in New Orleans Square is an even larger investment in our city. The color schemes that were presented at the last meeting were dismal and did not match the innovative mood that the New Orleans Square Advisory Committee and our great city council worked very hard to develop. Where is the color? I am in the favor of the city selecting the scheme listed as additional color scheme 1. If you pull up the attachment in the agenda, it is the blue and white one at the top page of 6. In the grand scheme of things, an additional $230,000 in a small investment for continued long-term growth of New Orleans Square and the city as a whole. Higher quality of life costs money. This city not only deserves a higher quality of life, it requires it. And who knows, perhaps a nice development such as an amusement park somewhere down the road and in the future will make up for what the city needs to spend right now on this crucial and very colorful project. Kind regards, me. And he had me say that. That's nice. Okay. So that is all the citizens that want to speak on it. Are there any other discussions?
You know, I feel like I asked about how much money, and I know it's different because we have a TIF, but for the Rose District, we've spent in the past 10 years approximately $43 million. And so when we look at some of the investment that we're making in New Orleans Square, we have, invested quite a bit of money for the time period that we've looked at it, but what we're getting, the bang for our buck, and also the sales tax dollars that actually in New Orleans Square are higher than the Rose District. I feel like this is really a drop in the bucket of what this intersection, but not just that, the whole overlay district and everything that we're doing, just it's going to pay for itself exponentially.
Well, I'm just going to share with the council if I can, Mayor. I mean, obviously, we do have the funds to do this. We would cut into what's in the budget, which gives me a little bit of concern, and we may have to take some additional money out if there's a change order or two that's unexpected. So there is the funds to do this. And secondly, is that I just consider this to be something that's the armor all. It's what our city needs. It's what we've talked about, and it is a little bit extra money. But to me, this is our opportunity to actually, I think, take our community to the higher level in terms of expectations. mean, we're getting ready to do a streetscape type initiative that's going to define how we're going to be looking at intersections for future development, for future bond packages. I mean, I'm sure that a design like this for intersections will be in there for something for the council to consider in the future. So I just think it's our opportunity to actually show the citizens that we're trying to improve this area as well as improve what we expect of our community. And I think it just helps overall with the quality of life.
All right, somebody else. I'll go ahead. If we don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I want to.
As part of this motion, as we kind of noted, there is still in the progress of working through the details with the contractor on the valuations. So as part of this, the motion, we will need to authorize the city manager to execute the change order with the contractor for up to a valuation for the selection that is made. And what this is going to allow us to do is with our next council period in July 19, we want to get the contractor moving on whatever color scheme is selected. So if there is one of the selections is made with that has a valuation, we'll need to write a change order, and this motion will be authorizing the city manager to execute said change order, and we will come back at the next council period to ratify that change order.
Mayor, if I may,
Mhm.
is Trevor, you good to go with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So can it include the concept that just because we can spend up to 230, we don't have to?
That's the max.
Absolutely. And that is the concept that we wrote into the RFA and this not to exceed.
Well, I understand, but sometimes not to exceed means I can go up.
So do I need to say
So,
that?
yeah.
Do I need to say that in the motion? Okay, not to exceed.
You have to give me an amount, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
And I assure you that engineering has, that is a very conservative estimate.
Okay.
I hope.
All right, well, I want to, hopefully I'm saying this right. I want to authorize the city manager to execute a change order for the valuation based on color scheme number 1, not to exceed an additional $230,000.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Oh, sorry. I got all excited.
Just a little excited.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's not a roundabout, but I'm super excited. You got a roundabout in your ward already. It's true. I do. Okay. Item 9H, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute an interlocal agreement between Wagner County and the City of Broken Arrow concerning the identification agency responsibilities and duties to provide ownership, operation, maintenance, construction, and financial obligation for specific public rights of way.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of council, Rocky Hinkle, Director of Streets and Stormwater. Before you tonight is agreement with the Wagner County to work out the color schemes for our boundary pavements. Just kidding. But before you tonight
We're going white.
is a interlocal agreement with the City of Broken Arrow, Wagner County to identify the responsibilities and duties regarding ownership, operations, maintenance, construction, financial obligations, so on and so forth. So basically what we're doing is cleaning up our perimeter and our boundary lines because there seems to be a lot of confusion with who owns and maintains what sections of roadway within that right of way. So also attached is an exhibit for you to review that has those duties outlined. Wagner County has had an opportunity to review this agreement and they are on board as well.
So would you just touch real quick on what the agreement says for the council members and the general public? Because there has been a lot of, I would say, chatter and questions about responsibilities in regards to primarily what we know as East New Orleans. They affectionately known as 101st, and what's going on there in this proposed switch that we're making.
Yeah. So in that instance, particularly, Broken Arrow will take 101st. I believe it is the 215th to 215th Street, where right now as it's set up, Broken Arrow has the north half and Wagner County has the south half. So this agreement will allow Broken Arrow to take the north half and the south half of the roadway, but the entire right of way between that section all the way to 215th Street. So basically it just outlines who's responsible for maintenance and operations within the right of way.
which I'm glad we've got this cleared up, because even though we knew the answer and we would share that with the public, we were always told that we weren't
To talk to a Wagner County
We were supposed to
commissioner.
talk to a Wagner County commissioner that knew more than the city did, so.
Here's why this is important. We have this agreement, and I'm recommending the council approve it. Late last week, we advertised for the road widening project, which essentially would be approximately 209th to 215th. And the plan is, if the bids are acceptable to engineering and construction, we would award that bid at the July 19th meeting. And then they would mobilize, and then because Scott Fest is coming up, is that we would actually start the construction probably the Monday after Scott Fest. So in essence, you approve the agreement this evening, which outlines the new terms and conditions, what we're responsible, they're responsible. Then council will consider award of a bid in July, and then about 60 days later, approximately, we begin construction.
I think this sounds really good. What I see though, historically, we ran the same issue. Anytime you have two cities, two counties boarding anything, you think this is difficult. You should go up here on the county line where you've got the city of Tulsa, city of Broken Arrow, Wagner County and Tulsa County, all trying to build one intersection in there. So I commend the city staff for getting this worked out and bringing it before them so the public can understand. But it's a good opportunity to work out and work together, because it's not, it's going to be complicated, trying to build one street, one build one side, one build the other.
Yeah, this will definitely simplify things moving forward.
Right. So I commend the staff for working that out, but certainly that's something you're going to run into anytime you have different governmental entities.
One thing I want to mention is in your packet is the first version of the map. So as Broken Arrow grows and Wagner County grows, those duties will change. So we'll update the revision of those maps too. So.
And it's the same problem we've had at Mingo or at Garnett and 100 Garnett and New Orleans, or 101st, depending on which side of Garnett you're on.
Correct.
And that's why that has taken 2 decades to start moving, because there's all these multiple jurisdictions. So frankly, we've worked better with Wagner County than Tulsa County on that one, given that. So.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize execution of an interlocal agreement between Wagner County and the city of Broken Arrow.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Roll call. Item 9.
Ken, just real quick, I want to thank Kenny for working with Tim Kelly, who's the county commissioner for Wagner County area, and also Rachel Cooper, because there was a lot of heavy lifting that had to be done in terms of coming up with an agreement, then going back and getting the Wagner County commissioners to approve it as well. So everyone worked really hard, as Councilmember Park said, to make this happen.
Absolutely. All right, item 9I, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the Jason Cohen to the City of Broken Arrow Planning Commission to fill the remainder of an unexpired term. Mayor Curtis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Planning Commission members are appointed to serve a 3-year term. Planning Commission member Heather Kennard has resigned. Ms. Kennard was originally appointed by the City Council on May 4th, 2021. The remainder of her 3-year term is set to expire May 5th, 2024. Jason Cohen has been recommended to serve on the Planning Commission by Councilor Ford. Mr. Cohen has expressed his willingness to serve to fill the remainder of the unexpired 3-year term to expire May 5th, 2024. He asks for Council's direction on this nomination. Here to answer any questions.
Make a motion to approve the appointment of Jason Cohen to the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Just real quick, I know that Mr. Cohen had expressed getting more involved in the community back in 2020. So excited to see this.
And I will say Mr. Cohen has already reached out to us to learn more about what the Planning Commission requires of him, and is very excited if council does choose to move him, to put him on the Planning Commission.
I'd just say one thing, everyone who gets on these boards, be careful what you ask for.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
And I do want to say too, I didn't meet with him obviously because I didn't really know him before, and he lives in Ward 2, which I liked as well since that was my appointment. But I thought I was going to educate him on what the Planning Commission does, but yeah, he had it down already, so I was pretty impressed with that.
It's probably one of the most important jobs in the city.
Well, he will have baptism by fire on
I know,
Thursday.
I've
if
seen-
he is appointed.
I've seen the agenda.
Well, I ran into the restroom, but I'm so happy to see your face. And so we sparred for about a year and a half, but it was very good stuff. And I appreciate you wanted to serve our community. And I'm excited that you're taking the bull by the horns and already learning everything you can.
Well, in the issue that we was discussing during that year and a half, he had a lot of knowledge, and you could tell he did his homework. And sometimes you felt like he was on your side, and all of a sudden he wasn't. But, he had that information. I always appreciate that, somebody that's willing to seek out knowledge. So I was excited about this.
Me too. Okay.
All right.
You just need to vote. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Good luck, sir. Item 9J, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the formation of a stakeholder advisory.
Two, City Council authorizes city manager and staff to proceed with the request for qualifications for two selected professional consulting firm to prepare a complete streetscaping plan for the city of Broken Arrow. As the RFQ process kicks off, staff does recommend that an ad hoc stakeholder committee be formed and subsequent appointments be made to advise and inform the process from the beginning of the adoption of the plan. Pending City Council approval, the proposed committee would be made up of the following representatives: a City Council member, City Council appointment by each council member, Planning Commission member, member of the Chamber of Commerce, member of the Economic Development Corporation, and appointment by the city manager. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any discussion?
So this is just creating the committee.
Correct. This
and
is
then
just
we'll do
creating, and
the-
then
okay.
as we've done with other ad hoc committees, is that you'll let staff know who you would like individually to be on there. So we place that on the agenda. We would also place on the agenda the Planning Commission for who they would appoint. And then also another item for the City Council would be an appointment of a City Council member to be represented.
So if I can just use this time to encourage anybody that may be listening out there or in the audience, that there are forms on our website, applications that need to be filled out if you're interested in serving on anything, because I'm kind of struggling with finding someone that may want to serve on this. So
I've also seen that there were 4 individuals who spoke on one particular item who may want to serve again. I'm just saying.
Well, one of them
They're
is
gone now.
getting nominated,
There you go.
whether he likes it or not.
As I mentioned to council members, I think getting citizens' involvement is always important. And we've demonstrated the last couple of years of having committees that come in, they do their job, and then they go home. And you look at the results of the decision you made tonight with regard to New Orleans Square as a result of a citizens committee that you created initially, then another committee. And so we've got a good track record of getting citizens involved. And I think Councilmember Ford's correct. If there's others that would like to, you couldn't find a better initiative to be a part of, because you're talking about have on this community for decades. This right here is going to have it. So hopefully, and we'll probably do a video or just an announcement about this. There's some folks who may have some interest, and glad the chamber is going to be a part of it. And then I think it's going to be a good group. It's going to be a good group.
All right. If there's no further discussion, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the formation of this committee.
I'll
A
second.
motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. 9K, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of BAZ 2109 rezoning Red Bull. It's Blue Bull. Blue Bull Capital
She needs some
LLC
Red Bull.
property. Larry Curtis.
Mayor, I had the same problem. Zoning designation on 1.05 acres from AR1 Annex Single Family Residential to R2 Single Family Residential. The property is located north of Jaffer Street and a half mile east of Aspen Avenue at 12952 South 152nd Street East Avenue, which is not currently platted. In the Planning Commission meeting held on May 12, 2022, 2 citizens spoke in opposition to the request, as they were not in favor of the applicant splitting the lot to construct a new single-family home. Concerns that were cited included density, construction noise, traffic, and the potential May 26, 22 meeting as the applicant was not present. In the meeting, the Planning Commission meeting held on May 22nd, the applicant was present and addressed the concerns mentioned in the previous meeting on his own accord. Recommended in the end an approval by a vote of 4-0 of BAZ 2109. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Is there any discussion?
I make a motion to approve the BAZ 2109 Bluebell Capital LLC property.
Second.
The motion and a second. Roll call. Motion. Item 10A, consideration, discussion, and possible preview of an ordinance for the voluntary annexation of property on approximately 0.1345 acres located at 1/4 mile north of Washington Street.
Yes, Mayor. At the request of the property owner, City of Broken Arrow has been requested to annex approximately 0.1345 acres located 1/4 mile south of Washington Street and 1/4 mile west of Midway Road. This 0.1345 acre site comprises of one parcel that is currently undeveloped. The property is intended to be developed subdivision. This property is designated as level 2 in the comprehensive plan. This is the little tiny strip that was accidentally left out by the applicant, not missed out by staff, just pointing that out. And so they're just trying to correct that as part of this development as it moves forward. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions?
Make a motion to approve 10A.
Second. It's to set, it's a preview and set.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Preview and set for adoption.
We have a motion and a second, and roll call, and we voted. It's passed. Thank you. Item 10B, consideration, discussion of ordinance, Appendix A, zoning ordinance, chapter section 5.8.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Chapter 3 and Chapter 5 of the Downtown Residential Overlay District also are proposed to be modified to include two family building forms in Area 5. The DROD was approved by City Council back in 2017 and has been in effect since 2018. Since that time, one modification has been made to the document addressing transitional setbacks and other setbacks and textural changes. As always, our zoning code continues to be modified as we move forward with the development of our downtown area. In Chapter 2 of the DROD, the general description of Area 5 Rose District transition states that the area is to serve as a transition that buffers intensive commercial mixed-use development from interior residential areas. As such, new construction and significant renovation should include a variety of buildings, forms, ranges from single-family to row houses to mixed-use buildings with limited commercial. As part of the development of the original draft in 2017, then went into effect in 2018, duplexes were left out as a part of that, and staff feels that to include that type of development would be recommended, as we are allowing townhomes and allowing instances single family to allow the transition to include duplexes were validated.
Do you have a map of where Area 5 is? I just don't remember. And it wasn't in the materials.
It's the area that, so the downtown area, if you think of, I don't have a map included, but the downtown area, basically Main Street and Broadway is Area 6, which is the heaviest density. If you can imagine that a buffer about a block out after that is Area 5. So that would be another buffer zone, and then it goes into Areas 1 and 2 and 3, and 3 being out here on the far southwest side of this, or southeast side of the city. So this would be the ring around the main downtown area. So the core would be the Area 6, and then there would be a ring around that. So imagine a block off of Ash or a block off of 2nd.
Thank you. But is that consistent with what's being built there now?
Well, yes and no. We have single family and we have townhomes and things along those lines. So there is that missing middle, I guess you could say, of that duplex capability. And And we have had instances where people have been interested in developing that type of construction. And so having seen what has been requested and posed to this staff over the years, that's why staff has suggested making this minor change to the code.
I actually thought we had duplexes in the Rose District.
We do in
Okay.
areas 2, in areas 3,
Okay.
but not in area 5. But we do in area 4 as well. So yes.
Gotcha.
I don't see a need for them, but I'm not necessarily opposed to them either. I just,
There would be a much higher standard associated with that. You know, the typical duplexes that you have seen in the whole that we have had prior to the DROD have had those, apartments or the garages on the front and things along those lines. The new ones that have gone in place, if you've seen them over there off of Fort Worth that have gone in,
Yeah.
their access have been along the back and things along those lines. Those standards would be incurred within this area as well.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to preview the ordinance and set for adoption.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Johnny.
Sorry. I was reading the next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Item 11, ordinances. 11A, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3730, and ordinance amending the Broken Arrow Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Water, Sewers, and Sewage Disposal. Stacy Thornton.
Hi. Hi, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors, City Manager. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to do the Vice Mayor's happy dance. This is a big deal for us. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it is a big deal. So at the June 6th meeting, we previewed the revision of 2 ordinances that would allow licensed plumbers to install new water services for 3/4 and 1-inch taps. This benefits both the city and the builders. And we're now requesting the adoption of the revisions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I made the comment when we talked about it before, that they do this already in a lot of cities.
Yes, they
The
do.
plumbers do the installation of that water tap.
They do. This has been going on for a few years now. It's been a long time coming. And it started with the builders and the developers requesting it. Oh, we do it here, we do it there.
Right.
And it's a low risk for us
Mhm.
and makes them happy, makes us happy too. So it's win-win.
They're bonded differently, bonded more, aren't they, for that, to make that tap, or is it just a regular
No,
license?
licensed plumbers, yeah. Which they're already doing most of it. So it's pretty minimum impact on the actual build itself. We're going to supply them all of the materials, so it's still city standards.
Okay.
and it's subject to inspection.
It will be inspected by building inspections, yes.
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance 3730.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. We're in lockdown mode. Are we in lockdown?
Yes, it's bedtime.
Item 11B is emergency clause.
Move the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion passed. Consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 37 and ordinance amending the Broken Arrow Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Water, Sewers, and Sewage Disposal Requirements. Stacy?
Yeah, this is the same one as before. It's just 2 ordinances that have to be amended in order to have the taps.
I'll make the motion to adopt 3731.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item emergency clause.
Make a motion to approve the emergency clause for 731.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 11E, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3734, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Broken Arrow, approving BAZ 1347.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, items E, G, and I are all amendments to the zoning ordinance in relations to projects that have gone through the requirements that this council has set forward in regards to zoning or PUD or plating processes. And so these are the ordinances codifying those changes.
Can we do a voice vote and do them all in one?
Yes, you may, as long as you do a separate emergency vote as well.
Okay. Make a motion to approve items E, G, and I.
A motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.
Move for the emergency clause on items E, G, and I.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Item 11K, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3738, an ordinance amending the Broken Arrow Code of Ordinances, Chapter 7, Business Regulation Licenses. This says Chief Berryhill, but Trevor Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. Vice Mayor, council members, the police department has moved over to an AutoCAD system, so everything's getting digitized. Under our current ordinance, if there's an inventory taken of a vehicle to be towed, the wrecker would physically sign the form. And so with moving over to a CAD system and an electronic system, what this change does is make it so that the officer on scene will record the name of the tow truck driver. But again, there won't be any physical forms to fill out or to check. And so this just keeps up to date the ordinance to show what our actual practice will be in the field. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Chief Berryhill is happy to come up to talk about this as well.
Any discussion?
Move to adopt ordinance number 3738.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call? Motion passes. Item L is emergency clause.
Make a motion, we approve the emergency clause for 3738.
Motion and second. Roll call? Motion passes. 11, ordinance number 3739, an ordinance amending the Broken Arrow Code, Chapter 2, Administration, General Section 2-1, Ward Boundaries. You are not far off.
As before, Farhad and his team did a fantastic job of this. This is the ordinance that now codifies the ward changes.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 3739.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call? Motion passes.
Thank you.
And I'll move for the emergency clause for ordinance number 3739.
We have a second. Roll call? Motion passes. 11O, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3742, amending Chapter 7 Business Regulation.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. As we discussed when we previewed this ordinance, the ordinance before you updates the City of Broken Arrow's ordinances governing marijuana permits to reflect state law. Some of the changes include updating the definition sections, tracking the state language on the grandfathering clause, the permitting, the renewal of the permits, and we also have some additional enforcement and penalty sections in that ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Move to approve the adoption of ordinance 3742.
We have a second. Roll call? Motion passes. 11P is the emergency clause.
Move to approve the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call? Motion passes. Item 12, remarks and inquiries by governing body members.
Y'all, I'm so happy about New Orleans Square. I'm just giddy right now. I mean, it's, Kenny, I know y'all are, and everyone involved, I know I put out a lot of questions, and this is going to be a challenge, and for our contractor, but I want to thank you all for just how professional you are and taking on this challenge. And I know you're just super excited about it too. So, and I did not prepare for my Constitution reading. So your homework for until July will be the 15th Amendment. And I'm sure everyone will go home and read it over the 4th of July. Wait, do we have another meeting before that? No, we do not. No. So
I'm just going to remind everyone tomorrow is Tuesday Nights in the Park. Wednesday we have Color with the Cop. So the police department has that on their Facebook page. Thursday is our second Mayor's Council of Veterans Affairs meeting at the Veterans Center at 1:30. And Friday, there's just so many things going on. Friday, the Broken Arrow Public School Foundation, which raises funds to grant funding for projects that our teachers would normally have to pay out of their own pocket. We grant funds for those projects. So they're having a fundraiser, barbecue and bingo. And tomorrow is the last day to buy the tickets. So if you want to go and join the fun.
And I cannot believe I forgot this, but I just realized, wait, we don't have a meeting before it. Is July 1st is our block party at New Orleans Square. And we're working on the logistics for traffic for that. And we'll be, for anybody watching and everyone, we're figuring out the best way for our citizens to safely approach the intersection. And, what I suggest is get there early. And, if you have a place that you can walk from, to do that. And it's going to be a great time, and really get there and support the businesses that are in that intersection. Because I know it has to be frustrating for them, and they do see the light at the end of the tunnel. They understand everything that's going on, but I know they'll appreciate your business.
And there's statewide elections June 28th, which is also my 42nd wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yes. All right. Anyone else? Remarks from City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. Just staying on the block party theme, let me just expand upon what the Vice Mayor said. This morning, we had a lengthy discussion. Kenny Schwab, Norris Stevens, and I did, along with Aaron McCulloch, about access. And based on the number of cars that just travel that intersection daily, just for to and from work, errands, and so forth, I believe it's the best way to handle the traffic for those approximately 5 to 6 hours is to actually limit access in that area to those people that are coming to the block party. That way, those folks that are coming in can get to one of the quadrants where they'll be able to park, and then we could set up the appropriate temporary detours for those people further back, like on Elm Place. It'll probably have to be around 91st and 111th respectively. In the New Orleans, it may be a little bit closer that we can get folks, but we're actually in the process through Kenny's team is coming up with how we would do that. And I am going to authorize him to close that intersection in some respect to make it for local traffic only. Most people are familiar with that. If you've been to a 4th of July celebration, you understand that the Vice Mayor is correct. I spoke to Councilor earlier right before this meeting too, is that people know there's it's time. It takes time when you're going to see a fireworks show. You just expect that when you leave there, it's never going to be really, really fast. And so we'll probably do some videos or two. Once we get the plan, we'll put everything out so that you can share it. I think it's going to be a great event. I'm just going to ask everybody to be patient. I think the comment was made earlier. The traffic seems to be flowing very well, considering there's so many orange cones. And I can tell you, when we had Washington up there, there were probably just as many, and we had a lot of comments, but the comments have really died down, and the voters have, the vehicular traffic has been really good in terms of moving back and forth. So look for some more information about that so you can share it.
And as the Vice Mayor said, you can always, I'm walking from my house only a mile and a half. I mean, you can do this, people.
We have sidewalks.
Yeah, there's sidewalks all the way from my house, all the way
Yes,
up.
we do.
So
They're
it's-
wide.
Bicycles. So,
White.
and plus another thing is that we were, bound and determined to hold it this year because we're trying to create a tradition. And we all know that when you stop something, it's hard to get people to come when you stop and restart it. And so this is a big deal. The second thing I want to mention is I spoke to a resident last week who was very upset about Windstream and fiber. And I sent the council members an email about it. I just want to let the council members know and the public is last year, Windstream did approach the city about wanting to do, for lack of a technical term for me, is they want to do a shallow installation of fiber in front yards. And we all know there's a lot of different utilities that are in those areas, and there's a lot of right-of-way that'd be necessary. And so as a result of that request, it did meet our code. We had to not approve that permit. That didn't mean that they couldn't put fiber in. It just meant they had to go in the existing right-of-ways, which essentially are in the backyard. Well, unfortunately, it appears that at least 3 to 5 residents have been told they can't get fiber because Broken Arrow won't approve their permit. They don't give the semicolon because what we want to do, the city, you don't meet city code. So I'm just letting the folks know if anyone calls, the city's willing to work with them. And obviously we want to get as much people to have access to fiber as possible, but there's existing easements that they need to work within. And this shallow fiber installation just would have been a proverbial nightmare in trying to get it done, the easements and potential damages to the lines and so forth. So I'm going to be reaching out to Windstream, and I don't know if it's Windstream or their subcontractor, but someone has put out that the city has denied this, and we're not denying them access to put in fiber. We're just saying is that where they want to put it doesn't meet our code. And so I want you to pass that along to folks. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was on the agenda tonight, on the consent agenda, there were a number of user agreements that were approved by the city council member, and there were 2 that actually the agreements were extended just for a period of time. The first one is the Broken Arrow Museum, and the second was the History Museum. And I wanted to touch on both of those just briefly to give council members an update. First, with the seniors, I spoke to, by way of video call, Yvette Martinez, who is the chairperson or president. Her title escapes me right now. Chairperson. Amazing person to work with. Really, really, really good. I shared with her some terms the city would like to have the senior board consider as a part of the renewal of their user agreement. Because remember, they have 2. They have the one, in other words, is for the building, and then there's a services agreement because the city contributes towards the salaries for the employees that work there. I shared with her some changes we want to discuss. She asked some questions, and she's going to be visiting with the board, I understand, tomorrow evening. I emailed her over the weekend because in all the discussion back and forth, I did not ask her when the board was actually going to approve the appointment of the vice mayor to the board. So I emailed her. I haven't heard back from her to find out where that's at, but I'm certainly positive that will probably come up tomorrow, and I'll hear from her during the week. So I don't anticipate us being able to get something to the council on the 19th for the new agreement. If not, that's why I put 2 meetings in there, which is the 5th, which would give us the August 2nd. And the second item that was extended from June 30th until August 2nd was the museum. And council had a detailed discussion at the last meeting, and the direction that was given was for the mayor and I to go meet with representatives from the museum, which we did a week ago tomorrow. And just coincidentally, the museum board had a meeting later that day where we were advised that there was a discussion amongst the board members that were in attendance. And as a result of that discussion, no decision was made, and a second meeting was scheduled, which happened to be at 5:00 today. And so the mayor and I and Vice Mayor Gillespie went over to that meeting, and we were there for a little over an hour. And it wasn't a full board again. I think there was probably 2/3 of the board. And there were also about 10 supporters of the museum that were there. And we were able to give a presentation informally, just a conversation basically, on why the city is requesting that a member of council be added to vote to the board as a voting member. And quite frankly, it was very surprising and disappointing that there's a lot of, I'm trying to think of the right word, is suspicion about, not only suspicion, but there's also a complete not understanding why the council wants to do that, even though we tried to explain multiple times. And there were a number of comments from the supporters there that don't understand it either. So I'm just sharing with you as governing body members that you may be contacted by either members of the board or members of supporters expressing concern because they don't understand. Although I think we explained from different perspectives what the purpose is. Really, it's about a partnership. It's about the council members wanting to be partners with any entity that's within our building. And so the buildings that we actually have use agreements with. And so after about probably 6:05 or so approximately, we left and they had to continue the discussion. I'm sure Kenny got here at 6:30 for the meeting, so I'm not sure what happened, but I'm sure that I'll hear from the president or the vice president about what was decided, and then I'll update the council. I'll be glad to answer any questions, or the mayor or vice mayor can add anything to that.
I don't have any questions, but I still have well, I do, but you can answer it. Is why anybody wouldn't want one of the board, a city councilman on the board. We serve on a lot of boards of nonprofits, statewide and national, NLC, the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce. So, try to protect our investment that we have in that area and work with them. So any board I've ever sat on, it was enjoyable, and added that. So I really am kind of at a loss.
I honestly am too. Despite explaining just exactly what you said, that we kept being questioned, but why do you want on it? And we're like, okay, well, we just told you why. And I mean, it literally just kept going back and forth. And I mean, they just weren't getting, they just don't want it. I mean, the ones that were saying that, it wouldn't matter what we said, honestly.
Most of the comments came from, or just as many came from the supporters that were there, quite frankly, who oppose it and don't understand it. That was my take. And it's being taken very personal, with all due respect. And the one thing I want to mention, Council Parks brought up a good point, and I was hoping that was mentioned, is it's been mentioned to me on 3 different occasions, and it was mentioned again tonight by 2 of the people that have mentioned before, that they say that it's a violation of their 501c3 to have a member of council on the board. And I've spoken to Trevor, and Trevor's done some extensive research, and it's one of those where he can't find anything that says that a council member cannot serve, or there's nothing we can find that says we can't give them financial contributions. Now, and so I first brought this up, and they were aware of it on March 2nd. And so I heard about this 501c3 thing a couple of weeks after that. So in mid-March. So here it is, almost 4 months. And it's been said by multiple people. And I've said to multiple people, if you have a legal opinion that I can give to Mr. Dennis that he can review to determine if in fact there's any legitimacy to it, please provide that to me. And it was mentioned again tonight as if I had either was speaking Mandarin Chinese or I had never said it, that this violates our 501c3. And I just asked, the last thing I said was, I believe your close to the last thing was, please, would you all, if you have an opinion that says that to contrary to what we found or haven't found, please let us know and we'll consider that, because obviously we're not interested in being in any violation or affecting their 501c3. But my advice comes from Trevor Dennis. Okay. Now, Trevor looks at legal opinions all the time, and he makes a determination to advise myself and the board. But I can't, if I don't have something to look at, I can't give it to him. And so I think I made that pretty clear that I need that in order to determine. But there just seems to be a continual hanging on that. But yet we're 3.5 months down the road, almost 4 months since this first came up, and I don't have anything. So I'm asking.
If that's the case, and I have a somewhat educated opinion on the topic, if that's the case, then there are hundreds, if not thousands, of boards that need to have mass resignations because city officials sit on them. 501c3 boards. I mean, seriously, I reiterate my opposition to demanding that a counselor be appointed to any board, but I also would say that is not a sufficient reason to deny it.
Well, and all these organizations, and that's the reason that we support them. That's the reason that the citizens voted you know what I mean, to provide the building for them is they add so much to the community. You know, all the ones that you mentioned, whether it's a senior center, whether it's a youth going to the museum, which they have a great exhibits in there and learn from there. And so, you know, we're very supportive of them. So I don't understand why they wouldn't want them on there. You know what I mean? Or anybody on there.
Has a counselor served on their board before? I mean, just in general?
I never have.
I never have either.
I don't want to go on a limb, but I think that former Counselor Thurman may have served on that board many years ago. Maybe Carter, maybe former Councilman Carter. But I mean, that's been a long time.
Sure,
Been a
right.
long time.
From my perspective, the comments that were made is they believe that the liaison is good enough, that the liaison reports that they provide and the report that the director gives periodically should be sufficient. And the opposition to this concerns me.
Do they think one vote's going to change what the?
Yes, they do. They was specifically said in the meeting by the executive director. I'm sure she'll see this, so I want to make sure I get this correct. Is that she has been talked to by multiple people that a council member, if they were on there, it will affect how other board members will vote. That
And
other
that
board
would intimidate them.
other board of directors will not vote in opposition of the council member there because being a council member on there would intimidate them. That was specifically said.
And that they have businesses to protect. You know, some people that sit on, but I mean, that's the case with, I mean, all our boards have business owners, business people from the business community on them.
Right.
So it doesn't really make sense to me, but they're entitled to their feelings.
And even though Michaela is an awesome liaison, I will say, we are elected, I feel, to take care of our city assets, which is they inhabit a city. Do you want to go ahead? You know, they're in a building that the city, our taxpayers have spent money and we continue to spend money on, you know, upkeep, maintenance. I mean, I feel like we should
Sure.
sit on there.
And I question why we're not, you know what I mean, on there.
We did ask that in the meeting and there's not a real answer necessarily.
So I wanted to share that with you mainly because I anticipated their supporters to be there. And I do anticipate that you could possibly hear from them because several of those supporters have reached out to other board members on other user groups, trying to lobby them to say that it's not a good idea they don't think it's a good idea that a council member serve on the board. And the one that I know of because said, heck yeah, it's a great idea. I said, I've got the mayor or whoever right there who I know she's got to go back and talk to the city manager, but I've got direct access to an elected official, which that is extremely difficult to have that direct access. And the board meeting gives you that opportunity in addition to whether it's networking before or after during the meeting. And that was brought up by the mayor.
Well, you've got the same thing for INCOG, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We've had guys on there, you know, I was on there when I was a little councilman. You know?
Vice Mayor brought that up. Council
Yeah, I brought
Vice
that
Mayor
up.
specifically brought that up.
And the OML Legislative Committee.
OML?
And I mean, and just the boards. the
The
OML.
Metropolitan Environmental Trust.
Yeah,
Well, and
exactly.
I also brought up the fact that it helps us build relationships with some of them that we may not have had before.
Wow.
Because there are quite a few of them that don't actually know any of us. They just have assumptions of us. So, yeah.
So I just want to make sure you knew what was going on. I'm just very concerned. I don't understand and makes me very concerned when there's so much opposition and when there's a reason why, but yet nothing's presented on why but you're out there still saying it. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work this out.
The senior board meets tomorrow at 3:30.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. We have an executive session.
Make a motion to take a recess to go into Bama and Beta.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Ford,
Here.
Udi,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Consent agenda passes. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, or awards. In general authority business, item 6A, consideration, discussion, approval of the proposed fiscal year 22-23 financial plan for Broken Arrow Municipal Authority.
Good evening. During the council meeting, we approved Resolution 1464, adopting the proposed FY23 fiscal year budget for the city. This is just the 2023 Broken Arrow Municipal Authority financial plan, and staff is recommends approving the fiscal year 23 Broken Arrow Municipal Authority financial plan.
Any discussions?
Move to approve the financial plan for fiscal year 22-23.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Are there any remarks by governing?
To mention on the back on the block party is I needed to recognize Pastor Morris allowing us to use the church's property for the fireworks. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, he was a part of the committee, and so he understands the value, obviously, as a citizen, as basically the business community, to the importance of this area. So I just want to thank you, Scott. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And your church very much.
There's no executive session.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. We're adjourned. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order. Roll call.
Ford,
Here.
Beatty,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I didn't get it.
Oh,
There you go.
I
We have
typed it.
a motion and a second. Roll call.
Oh.
Item 5, presentations, there are none. General authority business, item 6A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of proposed fiscal year 22-23.
As I said a few minutes ago, the Resolution 1464 adopted the proposed FY23 fiscal year budget. This is just the adoption of the approval of the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority financial plan. Staff is recommending.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Any remarks by governing body members? Our city manager?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. In the bond package that council authorized this evening that we'll be selling in hopefully in a couple of months, there's a lot of very exciting projects in there. There is one project that is economic development related, however, it's not economic development specifically. And that is there's funds the voters approved to address a drainage improvement that we need to make on 40 acres that's on north side of the turnpike. I'm sorry, the Highway 51, basically in front of St. John's Hospital. And I'm very excited because this is something that we need to do. And there's several $1 million that we're committing of the public funds in order to finalize the plans, specifications, acquire the property, working with the owner to make sure that we actually complete that improvement, which that's something the city needs to do. And I'm just very happy to announce that, with the approval of the adoption of the budget, we will now go forward and we will sell those bonds. And then we'll begin the process of starting that project because that's something we need to do in order to basically take care of our obligations.
All right, there's no executive session.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. We are adjourned. We do have executive session, so we need to make a motion.
Yeah, move to, make a motion to go back into city council.
It's okay.
It's not on there. Why not do that?
It's motion. Take a brief recess.
Yeah.
That's what we- Is there, I thought you were correcting her.
Did